Welcome to Automo. For all of you who live and breathe cars, always tracking the latest industry moves, well, you're definitely in the right place today. We're about to take a deep dive into some really critical news shaping the global auto world right now. We've got some fascinating sources you send over, including a great piece from the Morning Shift that kind of gives a snapshot of the big challenges automakers are up against. So our mission here is to pull out the most important bits from these sources, give you a quick but still thorough sense of what's going on, why it matters, and maybe find some surprising connections you wouldn't normally see.
Exactly. We'll be looking at everything from, well, luxury brands hitting unexpected bumps, big changes in regulatory bodies, and even how international freight spats are, directly messing with car sales. It's a super dynamic time, and understanding these pressures is really key to seeing the bigger picture, right, for the cars you drive and the industry you follow.
Okay, let's kick things off with something that might raise a few eyebrows. Sources are saying even a giant like Porsche is prepping for more cost cutting. This comes after what they're calling a rough year. And it's not just trimming the edges. Get this. CEO Oliver Bloom apparently wrote in an internal memo, "Our business model, which has served us well for many decades, no longer works in its current form." That's a really strong statement from Porsche. What do you think that signals?
It's huge, isn't it? It suggests something fundamental is broken, not just, a bad quarter. And what's really interesting is they point to two main things really hurting them. One is slowing sales in China. Especially for EVs, it seems like local buyers are choosing Chinese brands.
The homegrown preference thing.
Yeah. And the second, what the source calls a tariff nightmare over in the U.S.
Right. The U.S. piece is critical. It's their biggest single market, and it's all imports for them. The article pins the blame pretty directly on President Trump's policies, calling them ill-advised tariffs. Bloom even said, and this is a quote, "All of this is hitting us harder than many other car manufacturers." I mean, when even Porsche, with their usually strong margins, feels this kind of squeeze. What does that tell us?
It really makes you question their resilience, or maybe the limits of it, against these big external forces. They're aiming for a pretty ambitious operating margin, like 15 to 17% long term, which is a massive jump from the 8.6% they saw in the first quarter.
Wow, yeah.
So to get there, they're trying to slash production costs in Germany where, let's be honest, labor and energy aren't cheap. And they've already made moves, right? Cut about 1,900 jobs in Germany earlier this year. And now management's working on more cuts for the second half of 2025. Plus, remember, just before this article came out, they'd already hiked prices for the second time this year. So it really shows you how much they're scrambling to protect those margins.
And it's not just Porsche feeling the heat in that group. Their parent company, Volkswagen, they also made a deal with unions, didn't they, to cut like 35,000 jobs over the next few years.
Exactly. 5 years, yeah. So it's not an isolated Porsche problem. It points to a much wider reevaluation happening, especially in the German auto industry. And Porsche's struggles, they kind of lead us right into another luxury player facing EV headwinds, just different ones.
Right. Jaguar-Land Rover, this is where the EV story gets really interesting. Our sources are detailing some pretty significant delays for their big electric launches. The Range Rover Electric, hugely anticipated, was supposed to arrive late 2025. Now, deliveries won't even start until next year. And the new electric Jag. Production isn't even starting until August 2026. That's a long wait.
Yeah, it's a considerable delay. That's fascinating as a why. The source says, okay, partly it's needing more time for testing, fair enough, but there's also this hint, this underlying hope that EV demand will pick up soon.
So maybe they're not quite ready to jump in full force if the market isn't there?
It kind of suggests that, yeah. Like they're navigating some real uncertainty. And remember, these are the first EVs JLR is building themselves. So added complexity there.
Makes sense. And it's not just the big Range Rover EV, is it? The electric Range Rover Velar, that was supposed to start production April 2026. Sounds like that could slip too. JLR says their plans are flexible, they can adapt.
Yeah.
And they still claim they'll have electric options for all brands by 2030, but still.
Their Q1 sales dropped nearly 11%.
Ouch.
Yeah. Now, some of that, like Porsche, was pausing U.S. shipments because of tariffs. And Jaguar was phasing out old gas models. But they also cut their profit margin target for fiscal 2025, dropped it from 10% down to 5.7%.
Okay, that's a big adjustment.
It is. And they cited, quote, uncertainty in the global auto industry. It just underlines this broader theme, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Adapting to EVs, dealing with global issues. It's proving much tougher than maybe some expected.
These individual company struggles really seem to point towards bigger systemic pressures. Let's pivot a bit. Let's talk about how things like government policy and trade are hitting the whole sector. Our sources flagged some major staffing cuts happening at NHTSA, the U.S. National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. Over 25% of their employees are potentially being cut, part of this Trump administration plan to shrink the federal government.
Right. And that immediately raises a huge question for anyone who cares about car safety.
Yeah.
How does NHTSA, the main safety regulator, lose more than a quarter of its people, going from like 772 down to 555, and still do its job properly, let alone keep up with new tech?
Yeah, good point.
The force mentions Representative Rick Larson asking exactly that. How can the Transportation Department speed up projects and improve safety with a, quote, decimated workforce? And it's not just NHTSA, the Federal Highway Administration, Federal Transit Administration, also losing over 25%. The whole Department of Transportation is shedding like 4,100 people. You have to wonder, connect the dots. Does policy uncertainty like this start to chip away at consumer confidence in future vehicle safety? Could be another drag on the market.
And shifting gears again, but related in terms of external pressures, trade wars, we're seeing that play out directly. U.S.-made cars actually lost market share in Canada in the second quarter of 2025, and the source directly links it to the tariff conflict started by President Trump.
Yeah, that's a really clear, immediate impact right there. It affects the cars you can actually buy.
Yeah.
U.S. imports dropped from 41% of Canadian sales in Q1 down to 39% in Q2. Ottawa hit back with 25% tariffs on U.S.-made vehicles, and that declined. It's expected to get worse.
So manufacturers are reacting?
Absolutely. Brands like Mazda with their CX-50 and Nissan with the Pathfinder, Murano, Frontier, they've apparently just stopped shipping the U.S.-made versions to Canada for now.
Yeah.
Because, hiking prices by 25% just isn't going to fly with consumers.
Makes sense.
There's maybe some hope they'll reach a deal in Q3, but if not, yeah, you could see more automakers pulling American-built cars out of their Canadian lineups altogether, a real shift in availability.
Man, what an incredibly turbulent time for the auto industry. Just so many moving parts. You've got luxury icons like Porsche and JLR dealing with sales issues, EV delays, cutting costs. Then these huge external forces like tariffs and government staffing changes impacting safety and trade. It's all shifting so fast.
It really is. And what strikes me most is just how interconnected it all is. You pull one thread. Like a tariff in the U.S. impacts Porsche's global strategy, which affects jobs in Germany,
right,
or changes at NHTSA. They could have ripple effects on safety standards and tech adoption for years to come. It's not just one thing happening in isolation.
Absolutely. It really makes you think about those chain reactions, doesn't it? So maybe the final thought for you, our listener, the dedicated car enthusiast, as all these global pressures keep reshaping the industry, how do you think these shifts will ultimately touch you? The specific cars you might find on the lot, what you end up paying for them, and maybe even the speed of innovation in the cars you really love, something to mull over.